A is I'm doing another video here on Arkham Knight as sort of my Spoilercast video on it, because I'm more coherent now, so I'm not gonna be less struggling for articulation. See, I can say words like articulation. And it's like total spoiler fucking filled video. Like, I talked about some spoiler stuff last time, but I was also vague on a lot of other points. So this one I'm just gonna be completely blowout spoilers. And I'm gonna kinda segment the video talking about like 3 different things, like fucking Oracle, Jason Todd, and Batman. And Batman's probably gonna be like the majority of the video, because there was a lot of interest, because I liked what they did a lot, and also minorly discussing the other characters Scarecrow and Catwoman and stuff like that, and Hush. That was a good moment. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about was Oracle, because there's an attempt to rustle up some controversy about her from the usual suspects, which really bothered me, because what happens to her throughout the game is really one of the better parts about it, because Oracle has been in the Arkham series since day one. In Arkham Asylum, she was your mission control. She was your voice with an internet connection. She was the primary support network that Batman relied on. And then in City, Alfred was the person on the other end of the line for 20% of the game, and then Oracle showed up and she did the same thing, and she got a lot of good character moments in that. And now in this, she's a lot more central to the plot. She gets involved, shit happens, she does things happen to her. So she's not as prominent anymore, but there's a lot more importance to her. The only reason Alfred is kind of the guy in the earpiece now is because nothing really happens to him. Because he's kind of outside the city limits, Oracle stayed in Gotham City, obviously shit's gonna happen. But it's a natural evolution of her character, where she starts out as just being, the voice in the ear, but now she's actually in the game doing stuff. So it bothered me about the art, the attempts to draw controversy, because it's really spoilery to even talk about it. It really ruins certain plot events. The main, all they've ever showed off in the previews for this game so far was stuff leading up to the Ace Chemicals plant. Pivotal plot moment. Because, after that, everything just goes off the wall. What happens in the game is, Scarecrow, they find him at the Ace Chemicals building, and he's, trying to explode his fear toxin over the entire city. And so, obviously, Batman goes there to stop it, and what happens is he gets there, and Scarecrow's like, "Yo, bitch, I'm in your clock tower stealing your cripples." And so, Oracle gets kidnapped. And you don't know what happens to her. And so, already, to even talk about, you have to bring up that event. And the other thing that happens in the Ace Chemicals building, which is Batman supposedly sacrificing himself to stop the explosion, so that it just destroys the Ace Chemicals building, but the fear toxin doesn't get out into Gotham. And when he does that, he gets exposed to the fear toxin, and something happens with him. So, like, that's a really, like, that is the first real plot twist moment in the game. And to even say, oh, something happens to Oracle, is inherently a spoiler. And it's really fucking sleazy to talk about that shit, like, within the first couple days of release. It hasn't even been a week yet. I know I'm doing it, but I said, hey, Spoilercast. I'm not putting, oh, shoo, clickbait video title. I said I'm gonna talk about spoilers. These motherfuckers put trigger warnings, but no spoiler warnings? Assholes. So anyway, like, obviously the things they're talking about are, like, not just the kidnapping, but, like, when you go back to the clock tower, Batman has, like, a fear toxin-induced hallucination where he recalls the events of Barbara getting crippled. Because obviously she wasn't always in a wheelchair. There's a really, really famous Batman comic book called The Killing Joke that was a turning point in comic book history, really. It was like The Killing Joke, Watchmen, and The Dark Knight Returns were the comics that really, like, kind of started the grim, dark, and gritty. Oh, and Death in the Family too. A lot of Batman comics, actually. Death in the Family also being something I'm gonna be talking about. It's all connected, man. The other thing I'm not gonna be talking about is Dark Knight Returns, because that was a fucking Elseworlds thing. Carrie Kelly was cool though. I wish she could be used. Like, a Dark Knight Returns game with Carrie Kelly in it would be badass. They did, like, an animated thing with it, so she has a voice actress. That'd be cool. Anyway, so in The Killing Joke, the Joker kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and is like, I'm gonna torture you and drive you insane to turn you into, like, a crazy person like me. And, like, the entire point of his thing is, like, one bad day can completely destroy someone's life. And obviously that has a lot of thematic relevance to Batman, who also had one bad day that completely was a turning point in his life. And what was cool about that comic was, it's the comic that supposedly gave the Joker's origin story. But then it's also, like, it also gave us the line where Gordon's like, is any of that true? Like, you told me this story about what made you the Joker. Like, was any of it true at all? And the Joker's like, ah! Like, I think the specific line was like, some days I remember it one way, some days I remember it the other. If I'm gonna have a backstory, I'd prefer it to be multiple choice. Which is kind of, like, making fun of the fact that comic book characters, like the Joker, always have a different origin story, because every author always has a different idea of what created that character. And so that was that kind of, like, all the different origin stories are true because none of them are true, because the Joker's insane and he's just remembering it differently. And Arkham Asylum and Arkham City both reference that. Where, like, he's talking with therapists and he, like, tries to give him some bullshit story about, like, what made him the Joker, and both times, both of his therapists in Asylum and City are like, fuck you, you're lying. And in City, they even reference the multiple choice past line directly, except he says, like, a wise man once told me, which is a nice little reference to Alan Moore, the guy who wrote The Killing Joke. Anyway, so he kidnaps Gordon, and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you up. And one of his ways he does that is he finds Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter, who has been Batgirl for years. I don't know if decades, but, like, she's known culturally as Batgirl, obviously. And so he goes to Barbara Gordon and he fucking shoots her in the spine. Like, he shoots her and cripples her from the waist down for the rest of her life. And, like, that was a big deal at the time. Because, like, this was back in the day where fucking Robin became Nightwing and it stuck. You know, like, because in comic books, like, they try and change shit, but it just gets reset back to default because comic books gotta preserve that status quo. But Barbara Gordon getting crippled stuck, and and he also like stripped her naked and like took a video of it and showed it to Gordon, and was like, haha, I'm ruining your life because I fucked up your data. Ooh, naked pictures. and like trying to fuck him up. And that gets depicted in fucking Arkham Knight. Only it's actually a lot better because he just kind of walks in and shoots her. Like he never and then like snaps some pictures of her body where she's like, I'm shot. This is a good time. Enjoy this, guys. And then just leaves. Like he doesn't fucking strip her down and like implied sexually does shit to her or anything like that. Like he just shoots her in the spine and it ruined her life. And like Gordon blames himself because he did it to get to him. And that's a big thing in the game. That's one of the running themes is Batman and his guilt complex about the way his allies get hurt because of him. Only in that case, like that, and that was a relation to that because the Joker is fucking up Gordon to get to Batman. He had no idea that Barbara Gordon was Batgirl. He even like, it's even said like, oh, the Joker had no idea that she worked for you. I just got lucky. And so that I'm sure that gets brought up, you know, where they're like, oh, there's a horrible gruesome scene where a male character shoots her and cripples this violence against women. And it's stupid because it's a depiction of an event in comics that happened like 3 decades ago, and it's actually way better than it actually was in the comics because, again, like in the comics, it's implied that Joker fucking molested her at best, and in this, like, none of that happens. So it's like you're basically just exposing your own ignorance there. And then later, after some plot shit happens, Scarecrow's like, oh, here's where Barbara is, she's in this place, go save her. And when Batman gets there, she like gets sprayed with fear toxin and like gets all fearodized and is scared of Batman, so she picks up a gun and tries shooting him, only there's like glass between them so it doesn't work. And so the girl's like, haha, don't let him get to you, don't let him get to you. And so she fucking shoots herself in the head. Only they don't show what happens. Like, I'll talk about this later when I get to Batman, but someone walks in front of her so it blocks his vision of what she does. So, like, Barbara puts the gun to her head, and then this character goes like this. Like, literally exactly that. While the gunshot is heard behind him in the background, and then fucking Barbara's dead. And Batman's just fucking destroyed by this. He's just, like, he fucking literally saw one of his sidekicks fucking die literally right in front of his eyes. And it's his fault. Like, he even says, like, he did this to get to me. She's dead because of me. And that's something that that's a running theme throughout the game. In ways I'll talk about in a bit. But then, fucking guess what? Didn't really die. Because comic books. No, I'm just kidding. Like, it was a fear toxin-induced hallucination. Scarecrow fucking fear gassed him, put her wheelchair in that room to make his brain make the association, and so what he thought he saw didn't actually happen. And there was a fucking hint at that, because throughout the whole game, Batman is suffering from schizophrenia, basically. And like, his hallucination interacts with Barbara's hallucination. And like there's a gun on the table, and his first hallucination, like, pushes it, physically moves the gun on the table for Barbara to pick up. So that's a big giveaway that it's all bullshit during that scene. That, and, like, her corpse was, like, really not all that fucked up from, like, and you shoot yourself in the head, it fucking was, like, guess what? Not pretty, not fucking pretty. But, like, you you're just like, nothing. So those were pretty big hints, but at the time, I bought it. I completely bought it. I was like, oh my fucking god, they killed off Oracle. And I was pretty pissed off, to be honest. Like, at the time, I was like, man, fuck those articles. But I am really kind of annoyed they killed Barbara. Like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? She's amazing. Oracle is the best. I fucking love Oracle. She leads the fucking Birds of Prey. I was really kind of annoyed by that. I was like crossing my fingers, like, please let it not be real. Please let it not be real. And I was crossing my fingers. So, like, when it was revealed, haha, I bullshitted you. She was alive the whole time. I was like, yes! I was fucking cheering. And then, like, what happens is, like, Scarecrow, like, pushes her over the building, but then Batman, like, saves her. And, like, carries her down and saves her. And I was like, yay! I was so happy. And then, like, fucking Batman takes her back to the police department and, like, gives her a computer because that's his superpower. And, during this, like, really big knockout fucking battle with a whole bunch of tanks, or, unmanned drones, where he's fighting with the Batmobile, she uses her elite hacking skills to hack into some of the drones and take control of them and fight alongside Batman in the Batmobile using her hacking skills to take control of the tanks and shit. And it was amazing because Oracle is the fucking best. Like, Oracle is one of those characters where, like, my love for Cassandra Cain is well documented, but fucking I was never a fan of Barbara. Fuck, Barbara as Batgirl. I thought the kind of origin story behind it was really stupid, and her outfit, I was never a fan of it because I have this big hang up about fucking heels. Because one time I was playing around wearing heels and I almost broke my fucking ankle. So, like, ever since then, it's like, fuck you, heels. What are these fucking bitches doing cartwheels and battle moves with fucking heels on? You can't I don't know how women walk in those fucking things. Seriously. Anyway. And I'm just never a fan of it because, like, Batgirl's origin story is, like, she accidentally stumbled upon the Batcave one day. And she was like, oh my god, Bruce Wayne is the Batman. And she, like, made her own costume and stole some tech. And started just being Batgirl on her own for, like, however long before she got found out by Batman and Robin and, like, officially welcomed into the fold. And I just always thought that was dumb. I just never really liked it. So, like, Barbara getting crippled and becoming Oracle was literally the best thing that ever happened to her character. Because she became so much more interesting and so much more badass. And she got, like, so much more depth to her, too. And her relationships with other characters, particularly Cassandra Cain, who replaced her as Batgirl after, like, 10 years. I want Cassandra Cain in a video game, you guys. Anyway. And her character is so much more interesting. And, like, you see traces of that in like, an audio diary thing where she talks to Jason Todd. And she's like, dude. And he's like, and she's like, dude. He's like, It's really good. And then she was fucking badass using her hacker skills. And she's just, like, awesome. And her relationship with her dad is awesome. Like, there was because Gordon finds out she's Oracle and works with Batman. And she was like, I was all prepared for him to, like, lecture me. I like, constructed what he was gonna say in my head. Because we've all had that, right? Where, like, we're anticipating an argument and we, like, imagine what the argument is gonna be like in our head before it happens. But then it just totally goes a different way. And she was like, well, no, he just said, I'm proud of you. And then she's like, well, fuck, I don't know how to handle this. That's not what I expected. Because obviously he was extraordinarily protective of her because a fucking psychopath crippled her to get to him because he was the police commissioner. Like, obviously Gordon's got some guilt about And so, like, he's so overprotective because he just views her as his daughter, B, a cripple, this helpless little girl who can't even use her legs. She needs to be protected. She's so weak, but no, she's not weak. She's strong. She's stronger than almost every other member of the Bat family, because and you've seen that throughout the rest of the series, where like she's basically the team mom with all that entails. Like she's like given moral fucking support to fucking Batman. Like that, like, not to the point of being like a therapist or like being the fucking Bat therapist or anything, but like it's also said in universe that the Birds of Prey exist in the Arkham universe. Like you see references to Black Canary and whatnot. So it's like pretty much heavily implied that the Birds of Prey exist, and if they do, Barbara's fucking leading that shit. And in the comics, she was like a mom/big sister figure to Cassandra Cain. And that was a really interesting relationship because it was really realistic. Like, they didn't just get along all the time. And sometimes she lost her temper and said the wrong thing and like caused a divide between them. And you saw that in these games. You saw that personality and those strengths and weaknesses of her character. Of like, she's a really well-written character as Oracle. And you saw that in these games. So the way motherfuckers be like, oh, violence happens to her. Oh, she's a damsel in distress. Oh, people kill her to try and get at male characters is so fucking regressive because it just ignores everything else about her character that makes her so interesting. And I'm really looking forward to that Batgirl DLC that's going out soon. But honestly, she's like whatever she's like as Batgirl, she was that and 100 times more, way better as Oracle. And so seeing people like, that's one of the big things I fucking hate about the New 52, where they fucking de-crippled her and turned her into Batgirl again. I was like, fuck you, not my fucking Barbara Gordon. My Barbara Gordon can't use her fucking legs, she's fucking Oracle, and she leads the fucking Birds of Prey like the badass she is. Fuck you, Batgirl again. Fuck you saying like, oh, we'll be getting some DLC as an apology for their poor treatment of this character, reducing her to a damn. Fuck you, Oracle ain't get reduced to shit because she's amazing. Go suck a dick. And it's especially a dumb thing because they treat it like, oh, this female character's mistreated. Fucking every character is who knows Batman's mistreated. Prime example, Jason fucking Todd. Jason fucking Todd, who was the second Robin, who you've never heard of because almost every adaptation of Batman just ignores him completely because he fucking dies. Like, that was the other really big thing that kind of, like, changed people's perception of the Joker. Like, before that, before the Killing Joke and Death of the Family, like, Joker was kind of always just seen as, like, a joke villain. Like, oh, they're gonna make fun of my boner, are they? And he was a fucking clown. He wasn't like the threatening psychopath we know of him as today. And the Killing Joke and Death of the Family is really what set him apart from just being another theme villain in the Batman's Rogues Gallery to being the premier fucking comic book villain, period. And the Death of the Family story is like Dick Grayson used to be Robin, obviously, the Boy Wonder, the Flying Graysons, and it was Batman and Robin for a couple years, but eventually Tim Drake grew up and he started leading the Teen Titans, and he didn't want to be under Bruce's shadow anymore. He didn't want to be under Batman's shadow anymore. He'd grown up. He's doing his own thing. He's not a sidekick anymore, and so he decided to abandon the name Robin and become Nightwing. And that's his new identity. And that's something that's always stuck too, and that's really cool because I fucking love Nightwing. Like, when I think of Robin, I don't think of Dick Grayson. I think when I think of Dick Grayson, I think of Nightwing. And so Batman's like, well, shit, I need a Robin. So he found this new kid called Jason Todd. And Jason Todd was actually a really interesting character in terms of his tenure as Robin, because like he was a really violent, aggressive kid. Because like his backstory was he was raised like on the streets. Like his dad died and his mom supposedly died, and he was an orphan, and he just like, he was just street hooligan. And Batman met him because he was trying to jack the tires on the fucking Batmobile. And so when he like learned his story, he like kind of he adopted him into the fold and let him become Robin and trained him and all that stuff. But like he was kind of fucking nuts and really really violent with criminals. Like there was one occasion where he like broke a motherfucker's collarbone and sent him into shock. He almost died. There was one time where he did kill someone. Where like it was this rapist dude and they were chasing him down and he was dangling over this edge and like Robin shows up and then the guy falls to his death. And at the time Robin was kind of like, oh, he just got spooked by me and he fell. Yeah, that's totally what happened. But like no, like it's heavily implied like fucking he pushed him to his death. And like there's a lot of like behind the writing desk reasons for what Jason Todd was, but he was like in terms of like being a kid sidekick, a Robin to Batman, like that's really fucking interesting. That dynamic. Because like when people think of the Batman and Robin dynamic, they think, God, gee, holy cannolis, Batman, gee willikers. Ooh, I got kidnapped. Please come save me. Like, they don't think I'm a fucking street hooligan. Killed you. Like, that's not what people think of when they think of Robin. So that alone was like kind of a cool dynamic, and that's something they brought back a little bit when they have Damian Wayne as Robin. But even then, like it's totally its own thing. Anyway, and so finally, what happened with Jason Todd was he went. I'm gonna be talking about like in terms of what happens in the Arkhamverse, because for a long time there was kind of this question of whether or not Jason Todd was in the Arkhamverse, because like Nightwing was in there, and then Tim Drake was the current Robin, and so there was kind of this like there were implications, there were hints dropped, but there was never anything for sure to prove it. But now in Arkham Knight, like, he's in the fucking game. Like, there's Red Hood pre-order DLC. So what happens is, like, he's finally like, fuck you, Batman. Like, this no-kill rule bullshit is ridiculous. Like, look at this fucking Joker guy. He's a psychopath. He crippled Barbara. And not killing him just means he's allowed to get away and continue doing his evil shit. And like, the no-kill rule that Batman has, and its fucking validity, I suppose, its effectiveness, is also a central theme throughout all of the games, really. All three, which is kind of cool. Sinuses. Like, even in Arkham Asylum, Joker's like, fucking kill me, bro. Fucking do it, bro. Do it, bro. Do it, bro. And I was like, I'm not going to kill anyone. Not even you. And as the games go on and the Joker's crimes just mount and mount and mount, in addition to all the things he's done in the past, like, it really starts to sound reasonable when people go like, motherfucker, just kill him. Like, it's bad. Like, dude. And he's just like, no, I can't do it. I'd become no better than the monsters I fight if I let myself give in to that temptation. And that's something he says to other people in the comics all the time. So, like, one day Jason Todd's like, fuck you, you're a pussy, I'm gonna go kill him myself. And so he sneaks out and he tries to track down the Joker, and he finds him. And then the Joker, obviously the Joker gets the drop on him, and, like, holds him hostage, kidnaps him, and just brutally tortures him. And this is what happened in Death. Like, in Death in the Family, it's a lot more complicated. Like, there's extenuating circumstances around it. around how he got Robin in the first place, but the main point is he got Robin. He got Jason Todd. And there's this really famous scene where he just brutally beats him to a bloody pulp with a fucking crowbar. And, like, it's this sequence of panels where it's, like, that Joker like this, and then swinging down. And then like this, and swinging down. And like this, and swinging down. And it's really it's graphic in that what it doesn't show, like, puts that image in your head, and what you imagine is way worse than anything they could have put on a panel. And I love when they do that shit. And it was this really fucked up thing. And then finally he just, like, leaves him in the warehouse he had been doing it in, leaves him in just this bloody pulp. And then, like, even then, Jason Todd is, like, this, like, really, like, you can break every bone in my body, I'm still gonna wiggle at you. I'm still gonna wiggle at you, motherfucker. Like, that's his character. Like, even after, like, all this brutality that happened to him, he, like, tries to escape the warehouse and tries to get out, but he just can't do it, the door's locked. And then there was a bomb in the warehouse. And it fucking blows up and kills him. And, of course, it blows up and kills him right when Batman got there. Like, he showed up right as the warehouse was exploding. And he, like, roots around through the rubble, tries to find, and, like, this famous panel where Batman, like, lifts up his body, and he's just fucking dead. And, like, and that happened. There's small differences, like, small differences that actually make it way less brutal than it was in the comics, surprisingly. Like, considering all the things this series did to make relatively harmless, benign shit in the comics and amped it up to grim dark levels, it's interesting that they took shit from the comics that was up here and brought it down a little bit. That's interesting to me, but, like, in terms of the comics, like, he finds his body and he's just like, Robin fucking died. And it was this really powerful moment, and for a long time it stuck. Like, this was back in the day, and comics had this reputation, even back then, where, like, nothing sticks, status quo always prevails, characters die for, like, a week, but then get brought back. But Jason Todd's death stuck for a long fucking time, to the point where, like, there was this famous quote where it's like, no one stays dead in comics except Bucky, Uncle Ben, and Jason Todd. Like, that was, like, kind of how pervasive this moment was. And it was really the moment that, like, was the turning point for the Joker, that changed his whole course. Where, like, this was the motherfucker that killed Robin. And that really set him apart. And that moment, that sequence of events is in Arkham Knight, where fucking Joker kidnaps Jason Todd, and, like, a lot of it happens off screen, to be fair, but he brutally tortures him and beats him with chains, with a crowbar, and takes a fucking branding iron and brands his face with a J. For Jason? No. For Joker, like, you're my property, motherfucker. And then, at the end, he just shoots him. Supposedly. But yeah. So, like, these motherfuckers be complaining about Oracle. Oh, this female character, when motherfucking Jason Todd kidnapped, robbed of his agency, murdered for the sake of another male character's fucking character development. I don't see anyone whining about Robin stuffed in refrigerators. Oh, look at this female character that doesn't die and is a total badass. No one's saying shit about Jason Todd. No one's whining about Jason. No one's making fucking made up internet videos and outrage articles about fucking Jason Todd. Fucking hypocrites. Anyway, so obviously that death doesn't stick. Barbara getting crippled doesn't stick. Fucking Jason Todd being killed doesn't stick. And the comic, like, what's actually interesting is, like, he was dead for, like, 20 years or so. Almost exactly 20 years. What's funny is, like, there's this joke where Jason Todd was a 90s anti-hero before the 90s. Because he died in 88 and was brought back in 2006. something. So, like, he skipped the 90s completely. He was dead all throughout the 90s. So that's really funny. But yeah, eventually he was brought back to life and was not happy about things. And probably the best Batman animated like, I would even put it over the Nolan films or the Tim Burton films, is Batman Under the Red Hood, I think it's called, where it's the story of death of the family and the Red Hood kind of rolled together, and it's really, really strong. It's really good. And the original guy who wrote, like, The Return of Jason Todd even says he prefers it to his own canon, to the story he wrote, because originally Jason Todd was brought back from fucking, like, dumb comic book bullshit that wasn't important. So in Under the Red Hood, what happened was, it's explained that Ra's al Ghul had hired the Joker to distract Batman and Robin so that Batman wouldn't fuck with his plans within the League of Assassins to take over the world. So that's when the Joker killed Robin. And he felt responsible for that, like, because Ra's al Ghul really respects Batman in all continuities. And, like, even in Arkham City. Another topic for another day. But, like, so he felt responsible for that. He's like, geez, I just wanted this guy to distract them. Like, I really respect Batman. He's a great detective. Like, in some continuities, Bruce Wayne was trained by the League of Assassins for a short time. Like, we have a philosophical difference, and I think he's an idealistic idiot who is too much of a coward to kill people. But that doesn't mean I don't think he's a cool guy. I didn't want the fucking Joker to kill his fucking son. So he finds Jason's body and takes it to his Lazarus pit, which is the magic pit that Ra's al Ghul uses to live for like hundreds of years. Sorry. And it's this kind of like magic comic book juice that like brings people back to life. And so they take Jason Todd and they dump him into the Lazarus pit, and he comes back to life, but it drives him a little bit crazy. And so when he gets out, he is crazy and is like, fuck you, Batman, you fucking asshole, I'm gonna wreck your shit. And he becomes the Red Hood. In Arkham Knight, it's a little bit different. Like, the whole thing where Ra's al Ghul takes the dead Jason Todd and puts him in the Lazarus pit, they just kind of brush over that. Either it didn't happen or Joker didn't actually kill Jason Todd. It's not like, they don't really tell you what happened. I guess you're just kind of meant to make it up yourself. But anyway, it turns out the Arkham Knight of the title and the guy like running the militia that's invading Gotham is Jason Todd. And I had that spoiled for me, unfortunately. But really, when the reveal finally happens, it's still really, really fucking strong. So it didn't bother me that much. It was still a great scene where, like, you're kind of having this vehicle boss fight with the Arkham Knight where he's got this big, like, fucking grinder through the tunnels that you're going through with the Batmobile, and you have to outrun him, but finally he corners you, and there's no way out for the Batmobile, and he's like, I told Scarecrow everything about how to defeat you, but don't worry, Bruce, I kept some secrets for myself. And you're like, oh my god, he knows he's Bruce Wayne, what the fuck? And then, like, Batman has to abandon the Batmobile and it gets destroyed. So that was like a what the fuck moment. And then when you go in and you find Commissioner Gordon, because he had gotten kidnapped. Anyway, like, when you find him there, the Arkham Knight shows up and he's like, "Sup, Bruce?" And Batman's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he takes off the fucking mask and it's fucking Jason Todd. And he's like, "Oh my god, whoa, what has happened?" And he's like, "You fucker, you didn't save me. You got a new Robin to replace me. And you didn't even kill Joker. You pussied out and let him die on his own because you're an idiot." And Batman's like, "Dude, that's something that's actually different about this compared to the Red Hood. I like to imagine, like, that's the difference. Because, like, that's the reason he becomes the Arkham Knight, instead of just immediately going to become the Red Hood. Because he becomes the Red Hood because that was an old alias of the Joker. Like, one of his, like, identities before becoming the Joker, allegedly, was the Red Hood. Like, that was the story that was told in the Arkham Knight. In the Killing Joke. When he's telling Gordon about his backstory, he says, like, oh, I was just some guy, and I was in debt, and these mob guys were like, you work at Ace Chemicals, right? Help us break in and steal some shit. And they're like, wear this so you don't get seen on the security cameras. And it's this outfit where it's like a red cape and a red, like, glass dome hood over his head, so he can't be seen. And then Batman foils the robbery and and the Red Hood falls into this vat of chemicals, and it drives him insane, and that's how he becomes the Joker. And so Jason Todd took up the name the Red Hood, the alleged former alias of the guy who killed him, as kind of a, like, fuck you, and the entire basis of his revenge plot is, you didn't kill the fucking Joker. Like, I understand there was nothing you could do. You couldn't have saved me. I get it. But you didn't even kill the guy who killed me? Like, anyone else, I get it, but why? You couldn't kill this guy to take revenge for my death? And Batman's like, dude, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, fuck you. So, in this continuity, where he may or may not have even been killed in the first place, and the Joker keeps him captive for a year and tortures him physically and psychologically to the point of breaking down his psyche to hating Batman, to the point of even being willing to betray his secret identity, although he doesn't get the chance to. And, like, seeing the Joker as his master or whatever, but then he gets abandoned or killed. Again, it's not really clear what happens. And, like, after however many years, and the Joker's death, he doesn't have that outlet anymore. He doesn't have, like, he can't go, oh, the Joker killed me, but he's still alive, that's why I'm going to hate Bruce. He doesn't have that to project onto anymore. He just has his hatred of Batman. Of, like, oh, the Joker told me all these lies, and did all this shit to fuck up my psychology. As he's known to do. So he becomes the Arkham Knight. Because Arkham Asylum is where the Joker had kept him and tortured him for like a year. Plus, it's where the Joker died in Arkham City. So you can see him going, like, saying, because the only reason he became the Red Hood was because the Joker was once the Red Hood. So now he's becoming the Arkham Knight because Batman's the Dark Knight. And because Batman is the sole fixation of his hatred and revenge, he takes up the corrupted moniker of him instead of the corrupted moniker of the Joker. So that totally makes sense. And considering the way they'd been handling the story of the series up to this point, it's an acceptable tweaking to Jason Todd's story. And I really liked it for this continuity. Even though, again, they don't really give you all the answers, so there's some things I'm a little unclear about. Like, again, like, did the Joker kill him or not? If so, how'd he come back? Was the League of Assassins involved? And if the Joker didn't kill him, what the fuck happened? Like, because he sent the Joker sent a videotape to Batman saying, haha, I killed Jason, look, here's me shooting him right now. Like, he sent a video of him shooting Jason Todd. How did he Photoshop that shit? And, like, why did Joker abandon him? Because he had tortured him to the point of him being, like, a mindless slave like Harley Quinn. To an extent. Way worse than Harley Quinn had ever been treated. But, like, to that degree. Why did he just abandon him? What happened? What happened in between the time he was tortured but not killed, and becoming the Arkham Knight. Confusing to me. But anyway, I guess they're just supposed to leave that interpretation, or they'll expand upon it later. Not important. The important thing is, like, that scene happens in the game where he's like, I'm Jason Todd, motherfucker, and he kind of, like, throws down the, like, pointy-eared part of his helmet, and then his mask comes down, and it turns completely red, and it becomes the Red Hood mask, and you're like, oh, it's the Red Hood, oh! Like, I was freaking out. I was so hyped. I was excited. This game had me cheering and going, oh, like, wait, like, a billion times. And then, so anyway, the boss fight afterwards is really great. It's a Predator boss fight. A really good tweaking on it, too. Like, the boss fights in this series are really good. Like, Arkham Asylum had kind of weak boss fights, but, like, they were still tailored to the strengths of the villain he was fighting. Except for the last boss with Titan Joker, which was gay. So, like, even some of the lamer boss fights, like the one against Killer Croc in Asylum, were really, like, tailored to the strengths of that villain. And the Mr. Freeze fight, obviously, is probably the most famous one. But I think the fight against the Red Hood is really strong, too. Oh, sorry. And, like, during that whole thing, he's trying to, like, convince Jason Todd to come back to the light side of the Force. And again, it plays into the theme of Batman's guilt complex, where he gets people, his allies, hurt, and he gets them killed. And Jason Todd's kind of a physical manifestation of that. And by the end of the game, like, he kind of breaks through, and he's like, Jason, it's, you know, you can still come back to this, you're Robin, come on. And so at the end of the game, like, shit goes down, and Jason saves Batman. And then the DLC happens where now he's, like, part of the Bat family, kind of unofficially. It's not really clear. But, like, the Red Hood DLC that I uploaded before this, that happens chronologically after the events of Arkham Knight. So that's Jason Todd after the events of Arkham Knight, after rejecting the Arkham Knight persona and having a new costume and all that shit. And that leads me into talking about the man of the hour, fucking Batman. And, like, obviously the game is about his story. Like, I think the Oracle's character and Jason Todd's character and some other characters had really strong characterization, but the brunt focus is on Batman. Like, it's his POV. And something I've always really liked about these games is its interpretation of the Batman world is colored by the fact that Batman is a playable character. Certain characters are kind of portrayed differently than they conventionally are because it's colored by Batman's bias. Like, Harley Quinn, for example, usually is portrayed very sympathetically in other media, and sometimes to the point of just being another one of Joker's victims. But as far as Batman's concerned, she's just a criminal no better than the Joker. She's still a psychopath, she's still a murderer, she's still a bad person. And he doesn't let the fact that, you know, she's abused, tortured, broken psychologically. Like, in the Harley Quinn DLC, you really see how fucked up she really is. And it's I'm gonna do that too later. But as far as Batman's concerned, no, fuck you, you're just another criminal. I have no sympathy for you. Like, I might have I empathize, but I don't sympathize. That's really sums up Batman's relationship with his rogues gallery. And so that plays a lot into how other characters act in this game, I think, because, like, for one thing, I thought Catwoman's, as another example, I thought Catwoman's characterization in Arkham City was really strong. Like, there was a lot of nuance to it. where she, like, is always kind of portrayed as being in love with Batman. And even Batman views her that way, where, like, she has kind of a one-sided attraction to him. And he tries not to reciprocate, but she still wants that D. That BD. But then you play as her in City, and it's revealed she does that to everyone. Like, that's just how she is. That's the act she puts on with everyone. Even other women, even with fucking Hugo Strange in her interview tapes. Like, she just acts like a sultry vixen to fuck with people. That's part of her arsenal, her repertoire of weaponry is her flirtatious kind of tramp attitude about things. But then you see in the interview tapes where she does kind of have an attraction to Batman, but she also has abandonment issues from her father, so she can't trust men. And so, like, she deep down wants to be with Batman. She wants his approval. That's why she does so many crimes to, like, kind of get his attention. But at the same time, she can't trust him as a man. She can't trust the idea of a relationship with him because she has that emotional baggage. And so there's that internal conflict with her. There's depth and complexity and flaws and all that shit. And that's what makes a great character. Is flaws and internal strife. And in Arkham Knight, you kind of lose that. Because it's all just seen from Batman's perspective. And I really like her storyline, but her character kind of regresses a little bit. Where, like, she kind of just becomes Batman's, like, lovesick kitty cat who's always scratching at the door, and he just rebukes her to show how, I'm so above it all, but not really, because he's got other issues going on. But, like, she's, like really trying to be with him, and he won't let her in. And I felt like it loses a little bit of that nuance that she had, where she is kind of more face value in this game. Which, again, like, I kind of get that it's because it's viewed from Batman's point of view. Like, this is how he views Catwoman. Like, there's a bias at play. I'm sure if the game had been played from her perspective, it would be a little bit of a Rochambeau. It would be a little bit differently. Now, it's not to the point of being an unreliable narrator, this series, but certain things are emphasized more depending on who you're playing as, whose perspective you're seeing them from. And you saw that again in the Harley Quinn DLC, and you saw that before in the Harley's Revenge DLC in Arkham City, where you play as Robin. Talking a lot. Hurts my throat. Anyway, I say all that as kind of a lead up. Like, that's an important detail, is the fact that these games are viewed from Batman's perspective. And he has kind of an unflinching, unsympathetic view of his villains, to a degree. And he also has that guilt, like, Batman's just a walking bundle of psychological fucking problems. Like, he's got, like, watching your parents get gunned down in front of your eyes when you're 8 years old will fuck a motherfucker up, I guess. So, like, the reason that's relevant is because in this game, Batman's a schizophrenic. Like, to a very real degree. He has auditory, visual, and physical hallucinations. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Like, the primary reason is because of Scarecrow's fear toxin, which he gets exposed to very early on in the game in the Ace Chemicals building, and from that moment on, there's a hallucinatory Joker following Batman around throughout the entire game. And it's in his, the important thing is it's in his psyche. Batman is hallucinating the Joker. But, like, it's his hallucination. It's not like there's kind of a like hints of whether or not, because what happens is the primary plot is one of the primary plots is um in Arkham City the Joker was dying. He was, had a disease from the Titan that he'd taken in Arkham Asylum that turned him into that shitty, horrible fucking boss fight. And to convince Batman to help him find a cure, he injects him with his own blood, like a lot of it, and says, I've also sent my blood to hospitals all over the city, and so other people will get infected with my blood too. Help me find the cure. And so Batman does find the cure and takes it, and before he can give it to the Joker stabs him in the arm, and he drops the vial of cure, and it breaks open, and so Joker doesn't get the cure, and he fucking dies. And Batman feels guilty about that, because he does feel like he caused the Joker's death, because he said, I would have saved you. Also, he's perceived, like scuttlebutt is that he killed the Joker. So he has that guilt of killing someone, of going over the line, of breaking his rule. And he also has the Joker's blood in him. And what's revealed is the Joker's blood is like an infection. It's even said in the game, it acts like a prion. It's a parasite that gets in the brain and turns people kind of like corrupts them into the Joker. And there's other examples. There's like 4 other people aside from Batman who have the Joker's blood in them, and they all have different aspects of his personality. Like, one is incredibly violent and sadistic, one is very incredibly self-absorbed and narcissistic, one is obsessed with Batman, and one is very scheming and Machiavellian. And then it's not stated, but like my interpretation is the 5th one, Batman, gets his insanity. And like obviously that's the strongest part of the Joker. But Batman's also incredibly strong-willed too, so he kind of like resists it. Anyway, and that's dumb comic book bullshit logic, but it's also there's a basis for it, because in fucking a Batman Beyond movie called The Return of the Joker, it's revealed that, well, it's not revealed, but like the story is that the Joker kidnapped Tim Drake at one point and tortured him and turned him into like Joker Jr. Ugh. 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 And like psychologically turns him into like a mini-me version of the Joker, basically. And then years and years later, when Tim Drake's grown up, he becomes the Joker. Like, the Joker's personality is in his subconscious and takes over, and he physically and mentally becomes the Joker. Like, it's literally the Joker. Literally. And so that's kind of the basis of it. Like, so, like, there is a source. They're not just pulling it out of their ass. There is kind of like previous Batman lore that says like, yeah, the Joker's kind of an infectious parasite in a way. His personality is. But on the other hand, like it's handled really well to the point where it's like you can't really tell if it's literally the Joker like possessing Batman in his blood and like trying to take over his body, because that's the point. Like Joker's like, that's what he says is like, I'm gonna take over your mind and become you, but I'll be the Joker. But the Joker hallucination only starts happening, like Batman's been infected with this Joker blood for like almost a year, and as far as we know, this has never happened before. Like, there's been no hallucination of the Joker. All he has is looking at these other people who've been infected, saying, oh my god, they're becoming the Joker. They have his blood. Am I gonna become the Joker? Huh. So when he gets infected, exposed to the Scarecrow's fear toxin, that's when he starts hallucinating the Joker. And the Joker even says, literally, like, so your greatest fear is becoming me. Batman is scared he will become the Joker. That he will become that monster, that psychopath, that unrepentant murderer. Like, that's really what Batman's scared of. He's scared that he'll become just as bad as the criminals he fights. He's scared that he'll become the monster who took his parents away from him. That's why he doesn't kill. And that manifests in combination with, like, his guilt complex and his fear of the Joker blood he's infected with. It manifests in the form of a Joker hallucination. Like, that's my interpretation of it. You could interpret it as literally the ghost of the Joker is possessing him and trying to take over his body. I interpret it as it's just it's the form that his schizophrenia is taking. Like, all these different psychological problems that he's dealing with have kind of manifested in this form because, like, their interactions and the things Joker says and does very much plays on Batman's subconscious. Because, like, he has the flashback where Jason Todd is killed, but in the flashback, he remembers Jason Todd being shot dead, when apparently that's not really what happened. But, like, before you realize that Arkham Knight's Jason Todd, the Joker hallucination supposedly shows him what he did to Jason Todd, and he shows him the scene where that was on the videotape that Joker sent Batman, where he shot him dead. And earlier, where he has the hallucination where he sees the Joker cripple Barbara Gordon, it's different from how it is in the comics, where he just shoots her, takes some pictures, and walks away. Because he wasn't there. He heard it from hearsay. It's not accurate. This isn't the Joker's memories that he's showing to Bruce. It's what Batman thinks happens. It's his subconscious memory of it. That's why there's differences between what we're seeing in those hallucinations and what supposedly actually happened. Because memory's fucked up like that. So that's how I interpret it. Like, the Joker hallucination is just a manifestation of Batman's fear that he will become a monstrous criminal, and when he thinks of a monstrous criminal, he thinks of the Joker. And like, all their interactions, well, I say their interactions, but really it's just the Joker talking to Batman and taunting him. Batman doesn't engage with him at all. He doesn't respond. He doesn't talk back. He barely even looks at him most times, which I was always really impressed by. Because that's a big thing with schizophrenia, where if you acknowledge the hallucination, you give it power. You give it more control over your psychology. And Batman, like, very smartly is like, I'm not even gonna acknowledge that this is real because I know it's not. It's just a hallucination. That's a big thing with Batman. He's got a lot of willpower to resist that shit. Even in Arkham Asylum, where he got injected with enough fear toxin to drive 110 men insane, he just shrugs it off because he's the goddamn Batman. And that's sort of what happens at the end of the game too, but I'll get to that. Ah. Oh my god, I'm talking for an hour. Oh goodness. Okay. So he hallucinates Joker throughout the whole game, and it's, like, really great. Like, Mark Hamill is the definitive Joker. Like, this was a great performance. And it leads to some wonderful sequences. Like, you remember how in Arkham Asylum, where those fucking Scarecrow hallucination fear sequences were fucked up? It's all that and more. It's hallucinations galore, and it's really great. Like, I can't even get into it. Like, it's not just hallucinatory Joker running around. Like, he has those flashbacks. He has, like, delusions. Like, there's this great moment where he's on this airship where he like beats up a bunch of dudes and they're all knocked out and unconscious, and then a hallucination happens and all those unconscious bodies like get up and kind of like, and then like you turn around and look at all the bodies waking up, and as you turn the camera, the henchmen that you're not seeing on camera slowly get turned into the Joker's character model, and you turn the camera around and turn the camera around until the entire room is just filled with Jokers, and then you start beating them up out of like frustration, and then they start like dogpiling you and strangling you and trying to take over your brain. And then later we're fucking like he gets exposed to the fear toxin again, and that lets the Joker manifestation of his personality take control, and he just brutalizes the shit out of dudes where they're like everyone else in the room was like, Jesus Christ, like he almost killed those guys, like within an inch of their fucking life. And then like he beats the crap out of Scarecrow, and like in the hallucination, like all the Jokers like, do it, kill him, whoa. And then it pans back and he's holding a fucking gun, the same gun that the guy who killed his parents was holding, and it's like, boom! And he's like, oh my god, I had like, cause that's his fear. His fear is that he does have the heart of a killer. He does have that will, that killer instinct within him, that he's so afraid of giving into and becoming a monster like the person who killed his parents. Like, that's what that, like, like, the Joker is just the form it takes, but that's the more, like, psychological interpretation of things. And you see that also later on, where in another hallucination, he ends up back in Crime Alley, which is where his parents were killed. Like, they left the theater, and they went down Crime Alley, which isn't what it was called at the time. Just like, how stupid are these guys going down Crime Alley? And then that's where they got killed. And so he's there, and he sees their dead bodies, and he's like, pay your respects, and then the Joker hallucination's like, haha, fuck you, your parents are dead. And he starts beating up all these Joker hallucinations. And it's such a great sequence, because, like, there's takedown animations where it's, like, Joker takedown. And he, like, takes these Jokers that he's fighting, and he breaks their backs and, like, busts their skulls open. Like, he fucking murders these Joker hallucinations he's having. And then it finally ends with like, where he's, like, has the Joker in a headlock, and then button tap is, like, break neck. And you hit it, and Batman fucking snaps the Joker's neck. Like, kills him, and he looks down at his hands like, oh my fucking god. And then the Joker gets up like, so, you have that in you. That's what you want now. That's what you have become. You've become a murderer. Like, he didn't actually kill anyone. But, it's a big deal to him. Like, that's what he's so afraid of. He's afraid of becoming that murderer, and right there in that moment, he became that murderer in his own mind. In his own mind, that's what he became. And so that's why when the Scarecrow's like wheeling him into Arkham Asylum, and he's like, I'm gonna unmask you in front of the whole world, and he's live streaming it, and like all the news stations are reporting on it. They're like, take off his mask. That's why he's like, it's okay. Go ahead. Like, he's given up. He's totally and utterly given up. He's like, I can't be Batman anymore. This is it. Like, I'm done. The Batman's dead. I killed someone. I have to let it go. Just do it. Just take the fucking mask off. It doesn't matter anymore. And then he gets revealed to the world as fucking Bruce Wayne. And I was like, what? That was a great moment. Like, again, this game made me go, oh! Like, there were so many, like, fucking holy shit moments in this game, I actually can't keep track. I'm skipping over so much shit. I'm talking about the end of the fucking game here. And then what happens is he gets unmasked as Bruce Wayne, and everyone knows Bruce Wayne is Batman now. And then Scarecrow's like, haha, and then injects him with fear toxin, like fear liquid. And then that's the moment where, like, it's become too strong and he just gives up. And he gives up control to the Joker personality. And the Joker takes over his mind. And now it's like the Joker inside Bruce Wayne's body, but like that manifests through his POV as it literally being the Joker. And there's this great sequence where you play as the Joker in the hallucination, where he's just gunning people down. It's so great. Like it literally becomes a third-person shooter where you're playing as the Joker, shooting people, and then it becomes a first-person shooter where you're playing as the Joker with a shotgun. It was just such a great sequence. Like, so unexpected and so well done. But anyway, like, the Joker is in control now. The Joker personality that manifested as part of his schizophrenia is in control of things. And then the Scarecrow's like, Scarecrow doesn't know. Scarecrow doesn't know. He thinks he's just afraid. He oh, you're experiencing your worst fear. He doesn't realize that his worst fear is the Joker taking over his body, which is what happened. So he's like, oh, you scared? And the Joker's like, nah, I'm having a good time. Ha 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 ha. And the Scarecrow's like, fuck you, Bruce Wayne, be afraid! And then injects the Joker with fear toxin. And now the Joker is put through his worst fear. And his worst fear is being forgotten after his death and Batman. And it was this great fucking moment where, like you're playing as the Joker going through Batman's psychology, where Batman is controlling the rooms of the mental corridors he's going through and crafting all this shit. And it was so well done. And then finally at the end, like, Batman pops out and, like, beats you up because you're controlling the Joker and beats the shit out of you. And then finally, like, he grabs Joker and he's like, it's this great moment. Like, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. That famous line. And, like, that corny, cheesy, cliche meme of a line made epic. Made amazing. And then, like, representatively locks Joker up. Locks up that fear, that schizophrenia, that disorder, that manifestation, and just locks it up into the back of his mind, and just, he's sane again. Like, he retains his sanity. And, like, then, like, it fades back, and it's Bruce Wayne in the chair anymore, it's not Joker anymore, and he's like, and he's at peace. He's at peace now. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of becoming a murderer anymore. He's like, and that defeat from before, and that surrender, and that fear is gone. And he's Batman again. And he's like, fuck you, I'm Batman, motherfucker. And then, like, Jason Todd frees him, and he gets free, and he beats Scarecrow. And that's why he's able to run around after the game and still be able to free roam, because he has that confidence in himself again. He's not scared he's gonna lose himself anymore. And, like, really cool. But of course, the secret's out. And now anyone who wants to hurt Bruce, who wants revenge at Batman, can target anyone who's associated with Bruce Wayne. Like, it's the reason people have secret identities in the first place, because now, like, anyone who's even reasonably associated with Bruce Wayne is a target. Like, not to mention Wayne Tech, Wayne Corp is like all scandalous. They were like, this motherfucker was using his own company to make weapons for his vigilante crusade. Like the amount of problems that comes from everyone knowing your secret identity when you're Bruce fucking Wayne is just too much to count. So he fakes his own death, and that's the end of the game. Is he blows up Wayne Manor, and everyone thinks he's dead. And so they're like, okay, Bruce Wayne's dead, Batman's dead. What reason do we have to target these people and to make a scandal out of things? Because, like, the guy who did it is gone, so whatever. And so that's how they close the trilogy, with Batman dying after Batman had kind of, like, reclaimed his lease on life. And there was so much going into that too, like that driving theme of guilt, where like Oracle got kidnapped to get to him, Jason Todd got kidnapped to get to him, Tim Drake gets kidnapped to get to him, Gordon gets kidnapped to get to him, like all of these people he cares about and are important to him, their lives are constantly being put in danger because he's Batman. And that's like part of that guilt that he has to carry around with him. And that contributed a lot to his degenerating mental state throughout the game. That led to the ending where he just surrenders himself to the Joker. And it also leads, and it's also why he rejects Catwoman. Like that, like it wasn't just because I'm Batman and I can't have an emotional drive. He was like, I can't afford to let you care about me. You already got kidnapped by Riddler because, like, you're perceived as being an ally to me, even though you're a criminal. Like, I can't put you at risk like that. I can't let, like, it's a combination of, like, he knows he's gonna die at that point, and he's like, I don't want you to get hurt anymore. I don't want anyone to get hurt anymore. That's this big fucking thing throughout the Arkham series where he's like, I have to do this. Like, what's the fucking Greek myth? I forget. The guy who is holding the world up. Anyway. Like he feels like Gotham City's his responsibility. So it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of, like, he's a control freak. Like, he's like, this is my problem and I have to solve it. It's not your problem. It's like a combination of, like, possessiveness, control issues, paranoia. Like, he can't trust anyone else to do it. He can only trust himself to do it. And he doesn't want them to get hurt. So it's a combination of, like, protectiveness and mistrust. It is complicated. There's depth. There's, like, complexity, layers, three-dimensional characters. I love it. I love it. As a writer, like, I love when characters are written well, and I love analyzing them. It's great. And so, like, it's a character flaw where he's like, I feel guilty. I don't want people to get hurt because of me. And then the things he does to try and quote unquote protect them leads them to being helpless and getting kidnapped anyway. Like, he locks up Robin, locks up Tim Drake to protect him so he doesn't get kidnapped, and in locking him up, he's left helpless so that he gets kidnapped. If he had just trusted him, oh man, that was like one of the best parts too, because like when it's revealed that Batman is infected with the Joker, just like all the other dudes who are becoming the Joker, Tim Drake's like, dude, this is dangerous. You could become the Joker. We need to lock you up in quarantine. And so he's like, just get in the fucking isolation cube, isotube. And like at the time, Batman's like, okay, you're right. This is dangerous. I'm dangerous. I don't want to become this. It might happen. I mean, you see the shit that's going on out there right now. He lets himself get locked up, and Tim Drake's like, I'll take care of Scarecrow. I'll take care of the Arkham Knight. And so he runs out and deals with that, and that's when the Joker hallucination is like, hey, remember when I killed Jason Todd? Remember when Robin got killed? Remember when Robin got killed? oh, you're letting Robin run out there and deal with your mess? Remember that time Robin got killed? And so then you turn around and you realize Batman didn't go into the isolation tube. Him going into that cube was part of the hallucination. And so then you go up and you lock Robin up and you're like, it makes sense. It makes sense in the moment because, like, oh, you're right. I can't handle this. I need help. But if I let you help me, you'll get killed just like this last person who got killed. And I can't do that. I need to protect you by locking you up and not letting you help. But if you helped, that's the reality. The reality is if he, and you see that with Nightwing. You see that with the side quest where Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson, is helping out with things. Is helping out with the Penguin, where he's fighting alongside you and he's competent and he helps lead to the downfall of Joker. And yeah, he gets kidnapped, yeah, he gets hurt, but you save him and he can take care of himself. And so, that's the reality of the situation. So, you see it both ways with the ex-Robin of Dick Grayson, who does get kidnapped, but he's fine and he helps. And the issues that you face with that Batman faced with Penguin were eased because he let him help. And then you see it with Jason Todd, which is the worst case scenario but even then the reality of that situation was Jason Todd didn't get kidnapped by helping Batman. He went off on his own. And he snuck out to go try and kill the Joker, and he wasn't helping Batman at the time. So, the reality is, if Batman would just let these people in and let them help, they would actually be a lot safer than they end up being because he tries to shelter and protect them. And it's so interesting. It's so great. This game's great. This game's great. And Batman's characterization is great, and the writing's fantastic. And I've been talking for an hour and a half about it. And I could keep going. I could keep going about how the Gotham City, its design reflects Batman's mental state and all this other shit. And the Azrael side quests and stuff that happened in the previous Arkham games, like with Wonder City and Ra's al Ghul. And, oh. It's so great. You guys, this is a great series of games. This Arkham series, it's Rocksteady. It's been a privilege to play with you. Sync, oh man, I'm actually, they're, WB Games ain't gonna let this brand die. There's gonna be new Arkham games. But I said it before, if this was the last thing with Batman on the title ever released, ever made, I would be satisfied. This was an amazing game. This is an amazing game. I just can't shut up about it. Even though I physically don't think I can talk anymore. So kudos to you if you've actually watched this whole thing. Go buy Arkham Knight. This game deserves your patronage. I know there's a lot of controversy around it still, but it really deserves to be played. It deserves to be bought. It deserves to be experienced spoiler-free. If you've watched it to this point and you haven't played the game yet, fuck you, I just ruined the whole game for you. God damn it. There's no reason for you to play the game anymore because it's pretty much ruined, but you should still get it. You should still buy it. You should still support Rocksteady as developers because they're amazing. And you should still experience this amazing storyline. It's so great. I'm gonna play it right now. I'm gonna play this game. You can't stop me. Here I go. Thanks for watching, y'all. Okay, bye.